On October 19th, 2025, four men walked into the most visited museum in the world and walked out with over $100 million worth of French crown jewels. The entire operation took less than 8 minutes. 4 minutes of that, they were actually inside. And the first alert to police did not come from any of the Louvre's security systems. It came from a cyclist riding past outside, who looked up and saw helmeted men with a basket lift attached to the side of the building and called emergency services. That is how close to perfect this was. The Louvre in Paris is not just a museum, it is one of the most iconic buildings on the planet. 35,000 visitors walk through its doors every single day. At the heart of it sits the Galerie d'Apollon, the Apollo Gallery, a 16th century masterpiece of a room that houses what remained of the French crown jewels. These are not just expensive objects. They are irreplaceable pieces of French history. Among them, a tiara containing over 1,300 diamonds, an emerald necklace featuring 32 emeralds and 1,138 diamonds given personally by Napoleon to his second wife, Empress Marie-Louise, and the crown of Empress Eugenie, set with 1,354 diamonds and 56 deep green emeralds, objects that survived revolutions, wars, and centuries of French history, sitting behind glass in one of the most famous rooms in Europe. On the morning of October 19th, a small truck pulled up alongside the Louvre on Quai François Mitterrand. The truck had a mounted furniture elevator attached to it, the kind used by removal companies to move heavy items up the side of buildings. The crew extended the lift up to a first-floor balcony on the second story of the museum, and two men rode up in the bucket. What happened next took exactly 4 minutes. They smashed through a balcony window. They used industrial angle grinders and disc cutters to crack open the display cases inside the Apollo Gallery. They pulled out 8 pieces of the French crown jewels and dropped them into bags. Then they rode back down the lift, loaded everything into the truck, and drove away along the Seine. The whole thing from start to finish, under 8 minutes. The museum was full of visitors. People were standing meters away, and not a single Louvre security alarm went off during the entire robbery. Here is where it gets truly embarrassing for one of the world's most famous institutions. When investigators reviewed the security setup after the heist, what they found was staggering. Only 39% of museum rooms had CCTV coverage. The camera that was supposed to be monitoring the Apollo Gallery's second-floor balcony was facing the wrong direction. The Louvre's camera system authorization had actually lapsed in July 2025, 3 months before the robbery. The password to access the museum's surveillance systems was literally the word Louvre. A 2014 security audit had flagged every single one of these vulnerabilities over a decade earlier. The recommended upgrades were never implemented because of funding constraints. The Louvre's own director, Laurence Descartes, appeared before the French Senate and admitted there had been shortcomings in the museum. She offered to resign. French President Emmanuel Macron condemned the robbery, calling it an attack on a heritage that we cherish because it is our history. A former bank robber named David Desclose told the Associated Press that he had personally warned the Louvre of glaring vulnerabilities in the layout of the Apollo Gallery before the heist. The Louvre never responded to his warnings. The investigation that followed was one of the largest in recent French criminal history. Around 100 investigators were assigned to the case. 7 days a week, over 150 forensic samples were analyzed. 189 items were sealed as evidence. Within 6 days of the robbery, police had their first 2 arrests. 2 men in their 30s from Aubervilliers, a suburb in northeastern Paris, both already known to police for prior theft convictions. One was caught at Charles de Gaulle Airport trying to board a plane to Algeria. His DNA matched trace evidence recovered from a helmet left at the scene. The second man's DNA was found on broken glass from one of the smashed display cases. Both partially admitted their involvement after 4 days in custody. Over the following weeks, 9 more suspects were detained across Paris and the surrounding suburbs. A couple were arrested after their DNA was found in the basket lift used during the robbery. The man had 11 previous convictions, most of them for theft. By late November 2025, investigators believed they had identified and charged all 4 members of the team who physically carried out the robbery. Charges filed included organized gang theft and criminal conspiracy, carrying potential sentences of up to 15 years. But here is the part that nobody has been able to answer. The jewels have never been found, not a single piece. Experts believe the crew may have already dismantled the items and separated the stones from their historical settings to sell them on the black market as raw materials. Others believe the swift arrests made this less likely and that the jewels may still exist somewhere intact. As of June 2026, the location of the stolen crown jewels remains completely unknown. The Apollo Gallery at the Louvre remains closed to the public. The Empress. Eugenie's crown, which was dropped during the escape, was found outside the museum, but it was heavily damaged. The thieves had tried to pull it through an opening in the glass case that was too small for it, and it was basically crushed. 1 golden eagle broken off, 10 diamonds missing. In February 2026, the Louvre began the bidding process to hire a restorer just to attempt to fix what was dropped during the getaway. The pieces that were actually taken successfully, still missing. Worth over $100 million, gone, and nobody knows where. What makes this story different from any other heist is the scale of what was lost. The prosecutor who led the investigation said it best. The greater loss was not the monetary value. The greater loss was to France's historical heritage. These were not just diamonds and emeralds. They were objects that belonged to Napoleon, to Empress Eugenie, to the history of an entire nation. And 4 men with an angle grinder and a furniture lift walked in during opening hours and took them in 4 minutes, while 35,000 people visited the museum that day, while tourists took photographs 10 meters away. And the camera that should have been watching was pointing the wrong way. Every week on this channel, one real story, no fluff, just the facts and the truth behind the headlines. If you want the next one, hit subscribe. And drop a comment. Do you think the jewels still exist somewhere intact? Or